Doing great demand generation is hard work, but doing great brand work is even harder. Why? Because it's a leap from the rational to the emotional. Hi everyone, nice to see you. Great to be with you today. I actually started my career here in New York City as the receptionist at an ad agency. And I think it was formative for me in kind of creating a philosophy that great ideas can come from anywhere in your company, in your organization, especially the receptionist. Because I had lots of ideas right from the start. Most of them were terrible, but I learned how to make better and better ideas over time. So let's see, I want to start today just talking a little bit about what it means to bring brand thinking into a B2B organization. So I know that for many of you, you're in an MBA program, you learn a lot about consumer marketing, you don't always necessarily learn a lot about B2B marketing. And so I found myself recently, this story kind of begins in a room not unlike this one that was kind of a gathering of people who didn't know each other, but who were all prominent B2B marketers. And I found myself in this room with 25 or 30 of these folks. And the first presenter presented data on why it's so important to build a great brand in a B2B context. And there's terrific data about why it drives better demand generation, why it drives pricing power, how it builds shareholder value. And everyone in the room is kind of high-fiving each other. Yeah, we've got to build great B2B brands. That's what we're here to do. And I was sitting there thinking, well, then why don't we do it? If I said name a great B2B brand, you'd probably have a hard time coming up with 2 or 3, maybe even 1, right? So let me start with a quick awareness question. Prior to this morning, who has heard of ServiceNow? Just put a quick hand up. Okay, that's 46%. And if I just pick one random person, what does ServiceNow do? Who had their hand up? You had your hand up, didn't you? You said, it's perfect. You said AI and you said services, I'll take it. The gap between the 47% who said they've heard of us and you being able to kind of explain what we do is an important gap that we're trying to close. And that's helping people understand what we actually do, obviously most important with our core target audience. But that is a key part of kind of building a brand. So back to the room, why do so few people do it? And I'm sitting here and I'm kind of scratching my chin thinking, well, why aren't more B2B brands doing it? And I came up with an insight. And that is because it's really, really hard. That's why. And building a great brand at all is hard, right? In a consumer context, it's hard. But doing it in a B2B context is extra hard. And that's what we're going to talk about today, so that if anyone finds himself in that situation, hopefully you'll have a few extra insights that might help. So what I'm going to share with you today is not a playbook. It's just a bit of the journey that we've been on. I've been at ServiceNow for 4 years now. And before that, led the agency that was the ad agency BBO that helped ServiceNow build the brand. So I've been working on this business challenge for quite a while now. And we're beginning to make progress. So insight number 1, find your Bill McDermott. This is kind of a trick insight. But if you don't know who Bill is, he is the single most passionate CEO about brand building in the world, hands down. He deeply cares about building brands. And the reason is because he knows it adds shareholder value. But I am so lucky as the chief brand officer because when Bill goes on the news, he's on television, he's always talking about why it's so important to build a brand. That makes my job downstream so much easier because of his voice. But the insight is for any B2B marketer, the first thing you should be doing when you get inside of an organization is building your relationships with the people at the top of the organization who will have the decision making. And you're going to have to make the case and get them into a sort of mindset of brand building. Otherwise, it simply won't happen. If you're not in the room, which as a marketer you often won't be, when the final budgets are decided, the brand budget is very easy to get cut. It's very easy to say, let's put a line through that because we can't see the immediate value, right? When we talk about demand generation, and we'll do more about that in a second, it oftentimes is something where people go, well, we can't cut the demand, right? We can't cut that. We need sales tomorrow. So you've got to work to build your relationships with the CFOs, with the head of sales. When those people also believe, then the organization can begin to move forward on this brand building journey. So you need that champion. As I said, Bill will talk about this again and again, and you need to be the kind of chief brand recruiter, if you will, in terms of speaking to the internal C-suite. So what do you actually say to them as you're talking to people? If it's the head of sales, if it's the CFO, if it's your VP of finance, how do you help them understand why it matters? You have to make the case for why it's very rational to be emotional. What do I mean by that? When you think about the first great brand that comes to mind, if I surveyed the audience, the top three every time are Nike, Apple, and Disney. Every time. So when you think of those brands, do you think of Nike as the most comfortable shoe with the softest sole? No, you never think of that. You think of just do it. You think of the empowerment. You think of your inner athlete. You think of all the reasons you love putting on your Nikes, and I do. That's what builds a great brand. And in a B2B environment, it can be challenging to do that because it's a highly rational environment. This is a technology environment oftentimes, and you have a lot of people who want to talk about the nuts and bolts of the product, quite literally. Could be incredibly, generally very innovative products that you're selling, like we are, and so you want to talk about that. But you've got to find a way to elevate the conversation and talk about the power of emotion. There's a lot of science behind this, that emotion is what people remember. How you make someone feel is what they remember. Trying to convince them about the latest product innovation is a moment in time, but it won't last forever. So you have to show why it's rational to use emotion. And there is a dichotomy here that often happens between brand and demand, and I want to break that down a little bit. So within a B2B organization typically, and certainly within a tech organization, most companies start with demand generation. Why? Because you invent the product. Clever people invent a product, and then the first thing you need to do is get some revenue, right? You've got to start selling it. So the way to do that is to talk about product features, to find the problem you're solving. What is the itch that your customer needs to solve for, and then how does your product provide a calamine lotion for that itch, right? So that's where companies start, and oftentimes you can grow tremendously through that, but you get to a point in your scaling where that's not enough anymore, and you need to elevate the conversation. Doing great demand generation is hard work, but doing great brand work is even harder. Why? Because it's a leap from the rational to the emotional. And when you're talking about great products with rational product marketers, and then you go around to your stakeholders and you get everyone to agree on what are the product features that we want to feature and what is the problem we're solving, you can do that work, right? But when you have to then get them to elevate to a higher order conversation, that's really, really hard to do. And that's why you need those stakeholders who believe this is the right thing to do. It's a huge challenge. So let's take a second and just talk about our audience. In B2B environments, oftentimes people build personas. And personas look like someone who runs a tech organization, someone who runs an HR organization, someone who runs the finance organization. And those personas oftentimes have a stock photo of someone who looks the part. They might look very conservative. They might, if they're in the insurance industry, you think of them as a little more buttoned down. If they're in a creative industry, maybe less so. So you try to draw this persona in your head of who you're thinking about, and then you build that out across all the personas you're selling to. But it's very easy to forget these people are real people. So I like to always think you're not selling business to business, you're selling person to person. A real person is on the other side of this conversation. So if I said to you, think of the head of IT for a very large organization, one of the biggest companies that you all know. You probably wouldn't think of a guy who looks like this, but that's him. And he's a fabulous, intelligent, creative thinking guy who has a lawnmower in New Jersey and a family and kids he loves, and they play soccer in the yard, and he's just a normal person. So let's get back to thinking about people as people and market to them as individuals. Businesses don't buy businesses. People buy people. And that's just the simplest way to think of it. So, next step. These individuals then get grouped together, and in B2B marketing, we talk about buying centers. So what is a buying center? Very quickly, it's a group of people who have to make a business decision. So it could be 4 or 5 people, it could be 15 people who get assigned to a business problem in a big company. And the business problem, they have to go figure out, how do we solve for this? Can we build something or can we buy something that's going to solve this problem? If they're going to buy something, they then go through the process of sitting together, getting an analysis done, having people come in and talk to them about the problem, right? It's a whole process. I don't know about you, but getting 12 or 15 people to agree on what to have for lunch is hard, right? So never mind a multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract. It can be really, really challenging. And so in business-to-business thinking, we start to put these buying centers together, and now you've layered complexity on top of the personas, and you're thinking about this potentially in a way that's fairly cold and rational. So my thought is we have to get back to thinking of these people as individuals, and we have to find ways to make them heroes. So let's see what we can do to lean in and make them the heroes. So we've created a campaign recently where we have a new brand ambassador, someone you may know, Idris Elba, and he has around him in his enterprise the C-suite that is our buying centers. So as a company, ServiceNow started in the IT organization, but then as we grew, we now actually sell to many different buying centers. So we want to have all these different groups represented, and we want to make them those real people. So this is, I'm just going to play one commercial, and you'll get a sense of what I'm talking about.
Only ServiceNow connects every corner of your business, putting AI to work for people.
Every corner?
Every corner, Nick. So, Kate in HR, hey, Kate, can focus on people, not process.
Oh, actually, I have a question.
Keep up, Nick.
Do you have to be sick to take a sick day?
Patty in IT is using AI agents to deal with the small stuff so she can work on the big stuff.
Agents like secret agents?
Secret agents I control.
With your mind?
You know, I played a secret agent once.
I know. Oh, gosh.
I liked it.
Over here, AI gives Tina the info she needs to get the job done. Nick, what did we say about touching?
No touching.
Good. AI helps Jim solve customer problems before they're problems.
For reals?
For reals. ServiceNow is the only platform that connects every corner of your business, putting AI to work for people.
Oh, so we all work better together.
My work here is done.
Excuse me, which way back?
Follow him.
So what you saw in there is the entire buying center represented, but represented in a fun way. And so what we've tried to do is to use consumer thinking, which is building a distinctive asset, like a logo or a color scheme, anything that you can recall very quickly. And we've taken that thinking and applied it to the B2B world. And we've said, what if we took the buying centers and made them our distinctive asset? So you'll see more about how we're doing that as we go forward. But that cast essentially becomes the crew that can tell stories the way the cast of a sitcom would. So next step is what I call kind of thinking fast and slow, which in the B2B world gets oftentimes applied as the relationship between brand and demand. Has anybody read this book, Think Fast and Slow? So recommendation, if you haven't read it and you want to go into any form of marketing, download this today. It is the single most important book for understanding the psychology of how decisions get made. And the basic premise is fast thinking is name a sneaker, Nike, right? Slow thinking is, tell me about the 5 top sneaker brands and how they are differentiated. That requires some thinking, I have to process, right? That's the kindergarten level version. This guy's a genius, so it gets a little more complex, but every page is a deep insight into how to sell and how decisions get made through a buying process. So brand and demand. It's not an or, it's an and. Oftentimes you'll hear this debate, is it brand, is it demand? Great taste, less filling, like they're mutually exclusive. It's a relationship where the stronger the brand is, the stronger the demand engine is, and vice versa as well. So when you build them, you can think of them as two parts of a flywheel. And the closer those teams are, and the closer the thinking and the strategy are together, the more you can take that flywheel and get it spinning. Interestingly, in an enterprise, people often think demand is fast and brand is slow. Now, when you read Thinking Fast and Slow, you'll see that it's actually the opposite. The fast thinking is name a sneaker. So why is that important? In the B2B environment, 81% of the buying decisions get made based on what we call the day one list. What's the day one list? Well, if it was in consumer terms, you'd say, I need a new car. Okay, what do you want to look at? Well, let's go look at 4 brands, this, and this. If you're not on that list, you're probably not going to get bought, right? There is a whole long process that then takes place, and 19% of the time, another brand will get bought. But you have to be on that day one list, and that's the fast thinking. That's the name a AI platform for business transformation, ServiceNow. So let's put them on the list. So that's fast thinking. Okay, insight number 6 is how to use creativity as an unfair advantage. What do I mean by this? In most technology organizations that I've seen, you have all these brilliant engineers, brilliant innovators, and you tend to think that your only competitive advantage is the core product. But why is Apple a great brand? Part of it is because Steve Jobs used creativity as an unfair advantage, right? The way that they applied the thinking of what makes you want this product from it being a beautiful experience. The unboxing of an iPhone is every bit a brand builder as a billboard or a commercial, right? When you unbox an iPhone, it's like angels sing. It's such an incredible experience. I mean, I think Apple has more patents on the box than most companies have on the phone itself. It's just, it's remarkable. So how do you apply creativity in all aspects of the business? Well, for us, as I mentioned, we created this buying center cast of characters, and we're treating them like they're part of a sitcom, storytelling. And so yesterday, for example, we just launched the series that is them going to our big event. So our big event happens in May in Las Vegas. It's called Knowledge, and that event will have 20,000 plus people, tons of exciting celebrities on stage, and it's a big moment. And so we have the cast, we've filmed them going on a road trip to Knowledge, and now this is all over social media, and it's a way for us to now tell the story of our brand through the lens of our customer. And then another way to do it is what often happens, I know everyone here is trained in the buying funnel expertise. After awareness, and we get into discovery and consideration, in the B2B world, that content is oftentimes white papers, downloadable studies, things like that. And those definitely have a place. But you can also create content that people want to consume. And so that's what we tried to do with this. This is a piece that explains what AI agents do, which is not simple, but we did it with this cast of characters, so see what you think.
You're restoring my access to the HR portal, right? Compliance reports due and I need that access ASAP.
Nope. But my new agents are on it.
It's business critical. Wait, what new agents? I haven't onboarded anyone new.
No, ServiceNow AI agents. Your ticket triggered a whole fleet of them. They handle high-volume tasks, so I can focus on the bigger stuff. You know, the stuff that fulfills me.
I want to focus on the bigger stuff too.
All right, well, one AI agent is pulling logs from the HRIS now, while another is monitoring Active Directory sync errors in real time.
So AI agents are like personal minions?
Sure, if personal minions were pumped about resolving data errors.
Are they?
They are. You hear that? That's the agent summarizing your case and asking me to approve their work.
I wish HR had fancy AI agents.
You do. We all do. Everyone does. HR, customer service, field service.
Finance?
Yeah. Engineering, you name it. AI agents are built into the ServiceNow platform we already use. They're literally in every corner of our business.
No way.
Way.
I have AI agents. Whoa. I gotta tell Jim.
Jim's that way.
Jim is that way. Jim, you won't believe this.
Decided on fuchsia for your kitchen.
More of a salmon, like an off-red, but even better, I have ServiceNow AI agents.
Yeah, me too. I trained all mine to eat, sleep, and breathe customer service, so they give me 24/7 productivity, and my customers get 100% Jim TLC.
You need a hobby.
Anyway, for customer service, when a client's payment doesn't go through, my agents analyze the issue and flag the problem.
They do that by themselves.
Autonomously. They isolate the issue, then securely fix it for future transactions.
Fix it and forget it.
Then they send it to me for final approval. I give it the green light, and bada bing, business is a bada boomin'.
We should make a bunch of agents that work across our teams.
A gaggle of agents.
Doesn't a gaggle refer to geese?
Okay, fine.
I'm gonna go with it. My gaggle will automatically collect time off requests from your department, and don't worry, I'll set guardrails so no one's on vacay for months at a time.
Nick. And my gaggle of agents can plan our team's capacity and work with your agents to balance PTO and customer service coverage for our approval. Hey, Nick.
Hey, what are you guys up to?
You know, talking about geese.
Geese. They can swim 30 to 40 feet underwater. Also,
Wow.
super long necks.
Great to know.
Great.
What does Nick do here?
No clue.
Let's make an AI agent and figure that out.
Figure it out.
Good.
Back to my desk.
So, what'd you think? 2.5 minutes and maybe better than a white paper, hopefully? So, next step in this brand building journey is really to get the people who are most important to the brand building passionate about what you're passionate about. How do we do that? So, I kind of think of it as empowering the most die-hard fans of the brand itself. Now, in a consumer organization, if you're at Nike, this is not that hard to do. A lot of people are athletes, right? And a lot of people love their running shoes and stuff. In a B2B company, you have to find ways to empower the most passionate people. Now, in our company, we have about 26,000 employees, a little more now. But our community is actually close to 750,000 people, if you can believe it, people who work on the ServiceNow platform somewhere in the world. Those people are very passionate about their careers on the ServiceNow platform. And I had kind of a fundamental shifting in the way I thought about brand building when I came into ServiceNow because of meeting these kinds of people. And the way I would explain it is, in old school brand building, you would often have this, you still have a brand guideline book and very stringent brand guidelines about what you can do. So there are lots of companies where if someone came to you and said, I want to make earrings out of the logo, you would say, no, no, no. Sorry, we don't do that, right? If I want to do nail polish in the company color, we're not gonna be a part of that. That is not what we do. But has anybody heard of the Grateful Dead? I'm sure there's some people in the room. Okay. There's something really interesting that I learned going to a Grateful Dead show many years ago, and I haven't been to a lot of them. I'm not a Deadhead, but here's what struck me. They do one thing that no other band in the world does, and that is they let their customers record the concert for free. This is completely opposite of every other band and recording company in the world, right? Who don't want to take a penny out of their pockets, that you might use the recording that you have instead of buying the record and paying them money. The Grateful Dead have an entire section next to the sound system where their most passionate fans can set up microphones and record. And then those most passionate fans trade the recordings as if they have currency. Like it's crypto. That's how they trade. So I'm seeing this and I'm thinking, this is amazing. This is something fundamentally different. And so that's the kind of empowerment we've tried to bring in for our diehard fans. How do we keep them on brand, so to speak, but give them a pretty wide berth to have some fun and bring their own creativity and their own passion. So when we go to Knowledge in a month, I will see tons of people like this, wearing their clothes that have been customized. People have light up backpacks and Wrestling Federation heavyweight belts that they've made. You wouldn't believe how creative they get. But by empowering them, we're fueling that brand movement from the inside out. And so I think that any company that can take advantage of that has kind of a top spin on all their efforts that are their typical paid efforts. Okay, winding up. How do you define the brand at a B2B company? Well, I think it's the same as how you define it at a consumer company, and this is loosely stolen from Steve Jobs, but I would define it as everything you sell, do, and say. Absolutely everything. It's the sum total of everything you sell, everything you do as a company, and everything you say. If you add those things up, it adds up to a promise, and that promise is what your brand is. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. So, how are the results? We have a goal at ServiceNow to become a top 100 brand. There are two lists that matter, Kantar and Interbrand's top 100 lists. In 2024, we made number 53 on the Kantar list, and I'm proud to say we haven't quite broken in on the Interbrand list, but we are on the brands to watch list, which is kind of their hopefully on the way in someday soon. So this is a really important target for us because it means that we are getting to be the brand we want to be out in the world. And as soon as we do break into both top 100 lists, we'll set our sights on the top 20 because we don't rest. So hopefully I'll be able to come back here in a few years if Matthew will have me, and I'll talk about how we got to be a top 20 brand. But for now, we're setting our sights on the top 100. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.